Hello everybody, this is Jason here. Welcome to my channel. Just wanted to go through today and show you my EDH deck, one of the many that I play. This one I've just put together. It's called JALIRA, Master Polymorphist. She's actually a pretty interesting general because being able to pay 3 and then sacrifice another creature, you kind of get that random chance of popping up with some kind of a crazy monster that you can use to take over the battle or to end and win the game. These are some of the lands I have in the deck. Because it's a mono blue deck, you're going to see mostly islands, but I do play Strip Mine. This adds a colorless mana to your mana pool, but you can also sacrifice it to destroy a target land. So if somebody's playing something and it's giving you a hard time, you can blow it up. I also like playing Boshiju, who shelters all. This is a kind of a neat land because you can pay 2 life, and then you can add mana to your mana pool. And if you spend it on an instant or a sorcery spell, your opponent can't counter that spell. I also have the Reliquary Tower, which allows me to have no maximum hand size and also adds 1 mana to my mana pool. We're also running a copy of Crystal Veins. This is one of those cards I may take out. I've been testing this deck for a little while, and cards have been coming in and out of the deck as I go. I also will take any suggestions you guys want to make as well. This one you can tap to add 1 to your mana pool. You can sacrifice it to add 2 to your mana pool, which is kind of handy. And then again, I've got a whole bunch of just basic islands, some fancy, some not. And that's basically the whole mana portion of the deck is all island related. In fact, one of the cards I may add to the deck yet that I haven't is Vidalcan Shackles, because they do take advantage of being able to take control of a creature based on how many islands you control. Lightning Greaves I have in here for a couple of reasons. One is it helps protect the general himself, to keep the general around for long enough that I can kind of take a shot at getting a couple of different creatures out into play. I've also got the wonderful Skull Clamp. I've been playing with this card since it came out. It's nice because you get the +1/-1 on the creature. When it dies, you get to draw 2 cards. I have lots of sacrificial types of creatures that I can use with that Skull Clamp. I can steal a creature from my opponent, or I can create like a Pentavite token and then start using those to draw cards. Good old-fashioned Soul Ring. You gotta have a Soul Ring if you're playing EDH. Tap 2, add 2 to your mana pool. I've also got Sphere of the Suns, and one of the reasons that I'm running Sphere of the Suns is I can remove a charge counter from this card and play with a mana of any color in my mana pool. So if I steal an opponent's creature and it's got a activation ability and I don't have that color, I can cast it with that color. The Worn Power Stone, just some more mana ramp, which adds 2 colorless mana to my mana pool. I've also got the Thran Dynamo, which adds 3 colorless mana to your mana pool. And I threw in this interesting card called the Mindslaver. The reason I put Mindslaver in here should be fairly obvious. You sacrifice it and you can control your target player during their next turn. It's kind of a mean card for EDH. It may come out. I might keep it for a while. I'm kind of having fun with it. It's as you can see, a pretty fun card. Excuse me. I'm also running a copy of Mystic Remora in here. It's kind of an interesting enchantment. It's got a cumulative upkeep of 1. Whenever an opponent successfully casts a non-creature spell, though, I can draw a card, and that player has to pay 4 to counter that effect. So it's another way that I'm going to get to draw some card advantage out of the deck. I've also got Diplomatic Immunity here to protect the general. It says enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities. Diplomatic Immunity can't be the target of spells or abilities. So it's a good way to make your general kind of hard to kill. They have to use some pretty far-reaching abilities to wipe them out. I've got another interesting enchantment creature in here. He's a human wizard called the Archetype of Imagination. Now he's expensive to cast, but if I'm killing creatures to randomly draw creatures out of my deck, he is a creature, so the odds are if I can get him into play, all of my creatures will have flying, and the creatures my opponents can't have flying. So it kind of nullifies decks like dragons and things like that, because they aren't able to fly if I have that guy out in play. Favorable Winds, it's just a little pump enchantment. It gives my guys a flying +1/+1. I also have Domestication in here. As you can see, I've kind of gone with a bit of a control sort of game. Basically, this is to enchant a creature and take control of that creature. I'm also playing with Talrand's Invocation. This is one of those cards that I would probably use Skull Clamp with. You can put 2 blue 2/2 Drake creature tokens out into play. So one of them might get skull clamped, so I can get some cards. I've got a time warp, which lets me take an extra turn. Probably not the nicest card to play for EDH, but it is kind of fun. Council of Soratomi, draw 2 cards. Good old-fashioned washout. So if somebody's really kind of taking control of the game, say a player's playing green or red or black and they're just wiping you out, you can wash them out, return all that stuff to their hands, and kind of reset the board. Curse of the Swine, this is a good sorcery card. I got this not too long ago. I like that you exiling X target creatures for each one they get a green boar token on the battlefield. So they have a 5/5 dragon, it becomes a non-5/5 dragon. Knowledge Exploitation is also another nice card. It allows you to search your opponent's library for an instant or a sorcery card that you can then play without paying the mana cost. Good old-fashioned Merchant Scroll, because you got to search sometimes to find the spell you need. Fathom Troll is always a very nice card. It comes out, it's a little expensive to play sometimes, but revealing cards from the top of your library until you reveal 3 non-land cards, it's kind of handy. Usually you get something really good when you're playing with it. I've also got Treasure Hunt in here, same thing. This is another one of those cards that I've never really had a bad play when I've played that card, so that one's always been a favorite of mine. Sleight of Hand, again, looking at 2 top cards of your library. One goes into your hand, the other goes on the bottom of your library, so that's kind of nice for manipulating things. I am thinking of putting Sensei's Divining Top in here. I do have, because it would also work well with that. Pull from the Deep, returning a target instant or sort of non-target. Sorry, return a target instant card and a sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. It's kind of nice if you want to replay something like, say, you have to wash out again or, something like that. Serum Visions, scry to draw a card is always a nice little card to have. Take 'em Scheming is kind of nice. You look at the top 5 cards of your library, you put any number of them into the graveyard. The rest go back into the top of your library in any order. So that's also kind of handy. Fabricate, if you're looking for a specific card for an artifact, you can go searching for that. I've also got the nice thing I usually search out with that one is a actually accidentally got 2 copies of Sleight of Hand in here. Let me just fix that. That was supposed to be a Whisper Silk Cloak, which we use to protect the general as well. Gives our general Shroud. Good thing I caught that, so that's what that card will be. And we also have Ristic Scrying, which I kind of like. Draw 3 cards if any player pays 2, discard 3 cards. Typically I play this after everybody is sort of racing to put out their next giant thing. If I still don't have what I'm looking for to win, or if I'm looking for specific cards, I'll go digging with that card. I've also got Tunnel Vision, which is a pretty handy card. If you know what your opponents are playing, and you want to quickly try to mill them a bit, you can play target Tunnel Vision. They have to reveal cards from the top of their library until they find the named card. Then they have to put the rest of those revealed cards into their graveyard, and they put the named card on top of their library. Otherwise, they just shuffle the library. So if you know what they're playing, you can go searching for that card. And it can be anything. You can look for a Quash if you want, if they have that in their deck. Quash is a nice instant counter target instant or sorcery spell. You can search your opponent's graveyard and hand. Now, because we're playing EDH, you're only going to be removing 1 spell, but you're removing it from the game, so they can't play it again. So if you're playing against a player that plays Dredge or likes to bring things back from the graveyard, that spell's gone instead. This is a Japanese version of Twincast, so I can double that spell at instant speed, which is kind of nice. These are my instants, if you couldn't tell. This is Negate, so obviously counter target non-creature spell. I've got a Mystical Tutor in here. We got Mana Leak for countering. Swan Song, I like to turn things into other things. Good old-fashioned Cryptic Command, and if you're playing blue and you don't have a Cryptic Command, then you need to get one. Pongify, there's nothing more funny than turning somebody's giant creature into a monkey. Echoing Truth, bounce all those things back to their hand. If they're making a bunch of tokens, Rewind. It's kind of nice. It's basically a free counter spell. If you've got 4 lands open, you can counter the spell and then untap the 4 lands. So basically it's a free spell. I've always liked Rewind for that. Spy Network. Look at your opponent's hand. And then you can look at the top card of their library and any face-down creatures they control. And then you look at the top 4 cards of your library. I mean, for 1 mana, that's a super powerful card, so I love that card. Lets you know what your opponent's got in their hands. So if they've got a counterspell, you know you're not going to play your giant creature. Capsize with buyback. Nice for bouncing things out of play and keeping that spell in your hand. Spell Blast. Another great spell to have. Blue Sun Zenith, if you got the mana for it and you want to just go digging for spells, you can cast it and play as many as you can for X and go digging for spells. Time Stop is fantastic for stopping things like people that are going to go off with a combo of some sort. You can interrupt whatever they're doing by clearing the stack, ending the turn. And I've actually won games with this card because I've been able to stop people from doing what they're doing, kill their turn, start my turn, and finish them off. Telling Time. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of those cards in your hand, the other on top of your library. These are cards that are really handy when you're looking for specific cards in your deck and you're trying to dig through. Albanize. Turn somebody's creature into a sheep. Plagiarize is fantastic. If your opponent's going to draw a card, instead of him drawing a card, they skip that and you get to draw. So it's just a kind of a tempo changer. It messes people's game up. So here's some of the creatures I have in the deck. So the polymorphist is great because you sack a creature to go looking for another creature. So I've got the Deep Channel Mentor. He's Merfolk Rogue. Blue creatures I control get to be unblockable, and since all I'm playing pretty much is blue, that's everybody. Draining Welk is fantastic. He's got flash. When he comes into play, you can counter a spell and then put counters on him, where X is the cost of the spell he countered. So you hopefully don't want to draw him with the Master Polymorphist, but he is handy when you get him. Scourge of Fleets, when he comes into play, each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less, which is equal to the number of islands you control, all go back to their hands. So Scourge of Fleets is nice for, first he's a giant creature, and secondly he clears the board for you. So Clawfin Raptor is a nice 1-drop. He's got Evolve, so it's nice to see these guys because they get bigger as you play more creatures. So he goes from being a pretty harmless 0-1. Also, he's a nice Skull Clamp target, and he's another creature that you don't mind targeting with the polymorphist, to get rid of him to get something else. I've got the Clone. Clone is fantastic because I can use this card, obviously, to make a copy of any other creature that's not a legendary in the game. Solemn Silicarium. Nice creature because he allows me to go searching for a land card. So I get a little bit of land tempo because I'm playing blue. So I mean, green. Obviously, green players have a huge advantage as far as grabbing lands goes. But this guy lets me get that land. And also I get to draw a card when he dies. So if I Skull Clamp that guy and he goes goodbye, or I sack him to the polymorphist, I get another card into play as well. Pentivus, another great little guy. He comes into play with 5 counters on him. You remove a counter and you create a little Pentivite token. You can sacrifice it to put another counter back on Pentivus, but usually those tokens get sacrificed to the Skull Clamp for card drawing. Slither Muse. When he leaves play, choose an opponent if that player has more cards in their hand than I do. I draw cards equal to that difference. So he's kind of a trick character card. I like to play him usually from my hand. Sometimes I get him out to play with the polymorphist, and it actually does pay off when people have a couple cards in their hand and I have nothing. Bringer of the Blue Dawn is another great card. He's one of those guys I may change out. He's rather expensive to play. But again, if you're getting him for 4 with the Master Polymorphist, it's kind of cheap. Beginning of my upkeep with this guy, I can draw 2 cards. So it's like a one-handed Hollow Mine. Shipbreaker Kraken, I love this card. He's got Monstrosity 4. He's a 6/6. When he becomes monstrous, I can tap up to 4 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during my their controller's untap steps for as long as I control the Kraken. Now, you're tapping 4 big creatures of your opponents and smashing them with a giant Kraken. I mean, what's not to like about that guy? And usually I get him out to play for 4, so that's kind of nice. My latest Charlatan, I have this guy. He's got tap, pay 3 and tap. Controller of target instant or sorcery spell copies it. So this is another one of those little trick guys. He's kind of handy when I have certain spells in my hand that I want to play more than once. Like sleight of handing twice in a turn, or if I want to double counterspell something, or maybe I want to play 2 cryptic commands at the same time. That would be a pretty powerful thing to do. Master of Waves is fantastic when you get him out with the polymorphist and you have a couple of other creatures out there with some nice blue, because he puts out blue elemental creatures equal to your devotion to blue. So if you've got a couple of big creatures out there and this guy comes out, you're getting a lot of elemental tokens. And there's 1/0 blue tokens. So they die very easily to skull clamping, which lets you dig more. This is another nice character called Wonder. He's an incarnation. As long as he's in my graveyard and I control an island, creatures I control gain flying. So this is another guy that I might skull clamp, or I might sacrifice him to the polymorphist to find another creature, because I obviously want him in my graveyard, because nothing would be funnier than killing people with a flying Guile. Guile is an elemental incarnation. He's a 6/6. He's been a favorite of mine probably since he came out in the game. I love him because he can't be blocked except for by 3 or more creatures. And if a spell or ability I control would counter a spell, I actually can remove that spell from the game, and then I get to play that card without paying its mana cost. And then when Galia does die, he gets shuffled back into my library. So he's a fantastic card because he does a lot of work. And he's also a game winner usually when he comes out into play. Stormtime Leviathan, I have not gotten this guy into play yet. I would like to see him come out. He's got island walking. All lands become islands in addition to their other types. Creatures that do not have flying or island walking cannot attack when this guy is in play. Since all of my creatures will have flying, I don't have to worry about it. He's also an 8/8, so it's kind of nice to see a big monster like that. I have the Grand Architect in here. Gives all my blue creatures +1/+1, but he also makes target artifact creatures blue, so he changes their colors. I can tap and untap blue creature I control, add 2 to my mana pool, spend that mana to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. He's probably a card that I'll cut, but right now he is in the deck. I've been playing with him for a little bit. I have the Darksteel Colossus in here because he's a fantastic target for the polymorphist. He's an 11/11 trampler. He's indestructible. If he dies, he goes back into my library again. So another fantastic card for the polymorphist. That's basically what I've got in there so far. There are several cards that I've been sort of trying out in the deck. I've got a stack of them, like here. And these are all cards that have been coming in and out of the deck. I try them. I've got this habit of playtesting things like crazy. Sometimes I'll stick with a card or 2 for a while. Sometimes it'll only last a game, so I have to still work out some of the kinks in the deck. But anyway, let me know what you think of it. So that's my general Master Polymorphist. Like I said, I will take suggestions as well as to cards I should or shouldn't add to the deck. Tell me why. Don't just tell me, put this card in there. Give me a reason. I hope you enjoyed my deck list here, or my walkthrough of the deck. I will try to put up some games that I've played with this deck. I'm going to play test it here in my next few games here, and we'll see how it goes. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. And like I said, leave your suggestions below and subscribe if you'd like to. Thanks. Goodbye.